Hey, I'm back and I want to talk today about the three voices of memoir and why you need to know them and how to use them. My name is Brad Wetzler and I'm the author of Into the Soul of the World, My Journey to Healing, which came out this year from Hachette books. And it's a story of my journey as an adventure travel writer, my travels around the world, and then my descent into depression and PTSD, and then my rise again and how I worked my way back to being human again. I hope you'll check it out. Let's talk about the three voices of memoir. So we've got three voices. We've got a storytelling voice, and we've got a reflection or retrospection voice, and then the third voice, we have kind of a journalistic voice, and I'll unpack that for you. When we tell a story in a memoir, we kind of want to crawl into the mind of the person we were at the time of the events that you're writing about, the episode you're writing about. So if you're writing about a time when you were 15, you would try to crawl inside the mind of that 15-year-old. No, you wouldn't use necessarily all the jargon that a 15-year-old might use, but you crawl into that world of wonder, of a little more innocence. And we call this the voice of innocence. And likewise, if you're writing about when you were 30 and you would try to crawl into the mind of that 30-year-old, given the experiences they have and the limitations that they have in terms of their consciousness. And so we write the story that way. We tell it with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a crisis and climax and a resolution. And then when that story is done, and sometimes before the story is done, but for now we'll talk about when the story is done. On the other side of the action, we reflect, and the actual word is retrospect, but that's not important. But the idea is we say, looking back on that time I just told you about, that experience, I now feel X and I think Y about that time. And we want to pivot to that place of the now, the human you are now, the writer you are now, sitting at your keyboard. And you bring this perspective of 20/20 hindsight to it. And it creates a little bit of a dance of time between the past and the present, which is a very desirable thing in memoir writing. And it also just allows you to, like I said, add perspective. And it sort of leads the reader forward to know that you came out the other side. It sort of gives them hope, especially if you're writing about very difficult periods of life. You want to kind of show up in a different voice at these times and give them a sense that you did work your way through this, that you learned lessons through this. And lessons learned, of course, are the themes of memoir. And so this pivoting place here is a wonderful way to talk about the lessons you learned. You can analyze, you can theorize, you can tell the reader what today you think the meaning of that experience was. And you can do it with some imperfection. You don't have to have it locked up and tight theory about what was going on or the particular diagnosis of somebody. You just need to talk from the heart and from the mind about what that period of time meant to you. And so those are the two main voices. Those are the voice of innocence, the storytelling voice, and the voice of experience, which is that reflective voice. Now I'll mention the third voice, which I call the journalistic voice. And that is a voice you might use to educate the reader about a particular topic. If you were writing about your journey with PTSD, as I did, you might use this journalistic voice occasionally in your writing to educate the reader about the things you've learned about PTSD, the effects, the symptoms, the ways that it's overcome. Likewise, if you're on a journey, you're a big yoga practitioner, and you could educate the reader occasionally about the history of yoga, the way yoga affects the mind and the body. So it's kind of an educational voice. I call it journalistic, but it's educational, where you're giving the reader some gifts of information about something other than you, which is also an important thing in a memoir, is to give the reader some space and some break from the story of you. So Just to review, we've got the voice of innocence, which is your storytelling voice, the voice of experience, which is your reflective voice, and you've got your journalistic or your educational voice, in which you provide information to the reader about a subject other than you. I hope you found this useful. If you did, I hope you'll tap like and also subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you next time.